Welcome back to the Higher Form Podcast. We're here every week having real conversations with leaders, coaches, and everyday people about what it takes to become your best. We know life will test you, and we're here to share practical tips, tools, and relatable stories to help you build the highest form of your life. This week, we are talking about what coaching thousands of people has taught us that a certification will never teach you. Excited to chat. I'm Nick.
I'm Brittany.
And we're back.
We're back
with another week of the Higher Form Podcast.
Yes. Excited to chat. I think there's a big misconception on, oh, you have a degree or you have a certification. You must know how to do it all.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're going to dive into today is just because somebody has a certification or the education behind what they're doing in their profession doesn't necessarily mean that they know how to apply that information to the real human being in front of them.
Yeah, especially in the fitness industry, because
Yes.
getting a couple of letters behind your name doesn't really take a whole lot. The barrier to entry to achieve a coaching certification is pretty low, which I think is a good thing in a lot of ways. But if you're on the consumer side of it, it makes it a lot more difficult to understand who you should actually trust and who can help you.
Yeah.
Because I think the easiest way for someone to pick a personal trainer is to see, do they look the part, and do they have a certification? But those are just not enough qualifications.
Especially in today's day and age with social media being such a big place where people find that kind of coaching or support or someone that they maybe want to work with. Is like, they look fit, they have a cert, I'm going to go work with them. And it's like, okay, well, maybe read some reviews or look into, what they're offering. Just because they might look a part and have a certification doesn't necessarily mean they know how to coach you.
Yeah.
Or coach a group of people. That just comes with real life experience.
Yeah. And I think there's also a very big difference between someone who has a personal training cert or is a CPT and someone who is a true fitness professional.
Yeah.
Somebody who has had the opportunity to help people navigate through all of the inevitable challenges that come along the way when you're trying to achieve whatever the goal may be. Somebody who can help with nutrition, with lifestyle, with the things that need to be adapted to in a program, because it's not as black and white as like, here's a great workout and here's something that is by the book the way it's supposed to be, because it's pretty rare that you're going to be able to keep things running by the book. And even by the book doesn't explain how to pivot whenever you run into a situation that's not going to be what you read in the text.
Well, yeah, and everybody's life is unique and their day-to-day is different and their body's physical needs are different. They might have an injury the same as this other person, but it impacts them differently when they move. And right, I mean, there's so many different reasons why that is important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, some of the things that you don't get to learn in the book are what happens when maybe somebody's not able to move at the right pace that the standard periodization model is. Maybe somebody didn't have the ability to execute certain exercises. Maybe somebody has limitations or things that change when they come in for a session that are different than what you planned for.
Yeah.
There's just so many different variables and uncontrollables when you run into actually coaching humans.
Yeah.
And everybody is so different that if you don't have the real world application to be able to take these concepts and look at them as principles instead of exact following points.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest mistake I see a lot of new trainers make is they're like, well, the book would tell me to do this, 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 and this. I'm like, but the book's not a human.
Yeah.
And the book doesn't understand the person sitting in front of you. And if you do it by the book, then that makes you a baseline CPT. But if you want to be great at helping people, you truly want to impact someone's life, you have to really understand how to navigate the ins and out of applying principles and concepts to an individual situation instead of just like, well, the book said this.
Yeah. And that's where I think we've talked about this before, but like as a professional, a fitness professional, you have to be a chameleon to the person that you're working with, the circumstance that you're working within. If somebody's got an injury and you're showing them a regressed way to do something and they can't even do that, what do you do, right? You're like, well, my textbook said do this for regression and they can't even do that, so I don't know what else to do.
Yeah.
Right? Just an example.
This reminds me of an article I read a long time ago. I mean, I've been in personal training since 2012, 2013, and I remember early on one of the articles that I came across that just stuck in my head was this reality that great fitness professionals, great coaches really understand that dichotomy around being super prepared and structured,
Yeah.
but also being super flexible and able to adapt.
Yeah, you have to be so comfortable, and this is probably with any profession,
Yeah.
but you have to be so comfortable with the base knowledge of how to do anything,
Yep.
and then you have to adapt
Yep.
that to almost everybody for almost everything,
Yeah.
right? So you have to be so in tune with the general concepts and then be able to shift when you need to.
Yeah, because I can think of less times where I was able to follow a plan I had for a client perfectly than
Yeah.
times that I had like the most ideal, perfect program worked out, especially in my early days of training. I would spend all this time on program and like, oh,
Oh,
they're gonna do
yeah.
this many sets and we're gonna do this. And today we're gonna get a little bit more progressed and we're gonna push them a little bit harder. And they come in, they're like, I slept for 3.5 hours last night because my kid was up sick.
Yeah.
My job has been super stressful lately. I feel waxed and I barely made it in the door today. And that plan goes out the window because I'm not going to take them through a max effort session during that. But that
Yeah.
doesn't mean we can't move forward and we can't adapt. It's just having that ability to pivot and change and flow with the reality of the situation you come across. You got to be prepared, but you got to be ready to adapt. And that is definitely not something that's taught in a book.
Yeah, and that just comes with actually working with people and having to learn how to adapt on
Yeah.
the spot, you know, when you come across something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. It reminds me of that time that I took you skiing for the first time.
Yeah. So this was just what, 5 years ago?
It would have been right before COVID shut everything down. It was literally
It was
February of
that
2020.
February of 2020. So
Yep.
yeah, about 5, 6 years ago.
Whatever year it is.
Whatever the
Almost
math,
almost 6. Yeah,
whatever
that's
the
crazy.
math is. I had never been skiing before. I had been like snowboarding one time years before that. It was like horrible. Like I did so bad. I was
Yeah,
like
I've
not
never
good.
snowboarded outside of just like the one that you buy at Target that and you ride down like the little bit the
Yeah, I
Putnam
was like,
Hills in
oh, I've been on a
Kansas.
skateboard before. I get it. And I got on it. I was
Snowboarding
like,
is tough.
no, it's
Yeah.
like absolutely nothing like that. So, anyway, you took me skiing for the first time 5, 6 years ago, and we bought lessons because I was like, look, I don't know. I have no idea what I'm doing. And you and I are going to fight if you try to teach
Hands
me
down.
everything.
Hands
So,
down.
I need to go get lessons from a professional skier.
Yeah, we got a
And
good deal. We were at Copper Mountain and I was like, yeah, this is great. I'll get my feet back underneath
yeah,
me
like
and
you kind of went.
drop Britt off and meet her around lunchtime.
Yeah, so I went to my little lesson. It was like a 2-hour lesson, and they take you over here and they teach you how to get in the skis, kind of move around,
Yeah.
how to get on the lift, how to get off the lift, and then you kind of go down this like baby. It's like smaller than the bunny hill. It's like so small. It's just like this little thing, and they teach you how to curve. And that was like it. I mean, because there was like, 6 or 7 other people, and you're doing that for everybody. It just took a lot of time, and it was like 2 hours. Anyway, so I meet you back at I don't
Lodge.
know, the lodge. Okay.
Yeah.
I was like the area at the bottom.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, ready? Let's go. And I was like, oh no, I don't know how to ski. I just know how to put my boots in my skis.
Yeah, you said you
And I
fell
know
off
how to,
the ski
yeah,
lift
I
the
fell off
first
the
time.
ski lift the first time because
Yeah.
it's such a weird thing. Once you're connected in your skis, your feet are super long. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And so anyway, you were like, let's go up. And I was like, no, I still don't know how to ski. I don't know how to do anything. And you're like, well,
We gonna learn today.
yeah, you're like, well, we'll just go up and we'll figure it out on the way down. And I was so scared because I was just like, I still don't know. I have no idea what I'm doing here. Like, yeah, I get the basics. So I think that kind of correlates to just like you get all your education and then you just get thrown out in the real world and they're like, okay, go figure it out. And you're like, oh, I don't know how to help people,
Yeah.
until you're actually in front of somebody and you're like, okay, let's do this. And you're just like, okay, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. And needless to say, you fell down a lot that first day.
Yeah, I fell down a
Lots of
lot.
falls.
Lots of falls.
Reminds me to draw full circle to the parallel we're discussing here is the
Yeah.
first year or so that I was training clients. I have said this publicly before, but I almost feel bad for those clients because they had to experience my falls,
Well, because you're so young in learning how to like actually work with people.
Yeah, because I went out and I had my exercise science degree.
Yeah.
And then when I went to Lifetime, they said you have to have an NASM certification. So I was like, all right, cool. I'll do the CES and the CPT. The CES is the corrective exercise piece. And I thought, oh man, this would be really cool. I studied pre-physical therapy in college. This will be my route to still work with clients on corrective needs. So I passed the test. It was all online,
Yeah.
open book.
Yeah.
And I actually did my CES before I finished my CPT because the CPT you have to sit down in a testing center and pass. And I was a little bit more
Yeah.
conscious about making sure I'd studied for that one instead of just doing a 2-hour online open book test.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm
There's a
never,
difference.
yeah, there is a very big difference. I remember the first client that I'd gotten that was a corrective exercise client. One of the early mentors, shout out to Nick David if you are listening to this, but he was the first person to ever really trust me to take on clients. So at Lifetime they have what's called S&S, sold not service. So he would sell clients, give them to me, and he'd like pump my books full.
Yeah.
And was the first person to ever really like lean into trusting my skills. And I remember him telling this guy who had had some serious back pain and some L4, L5, L5S1 type herniations. It's like, yeah, this guy's a corrective exercise specialist. He's great with people's back pain. He'll do awesome with you. I'd never worked with somebody who had had back pain before,
Yeah.
but I had the certification. So the guy trusted it and was like, all right, cool, here's the money, let's get rolling. And we go through that session. And I literally was like peeing down my leg thinking, what am I going to do with this guy?
Yeah.
I've studied, I know the things, but inevitably I made it work. He didn't know different. I did a lot of glute bridges,
Yeah.
a lot of hip stretching, a lot of core bracing, a lot of like basic things that you would find. And we made our way through it. And he never knew the difference. But in the moment, it was one of those really eye-opening, memorable experiences where I was like, I actually don't know what
I'm doing.
I'm doing.
Well, and that's kind of one of those where you're like, okay, you get the client, you hear, okay, they have this injury, they're working through this, and then you have to like go back to your books
Yeah.
or go back to your study materials and be like, okay, where should I start with
What's
this?
the plan here?
What's the plan?
Yeah.
Like, where should I start with this person? So a lot of times, because there are so many variables of how somebody could be needing support, back injury, postpartum, whatever, sometimes especially if you're not as experienced and you're fresh on the market,
Fresh off the books.
fresh off the books, you're going to have to like refer back to your materials to remind yourself like, this is what this person's dealing with. Okay, how do I like actually put that into action and help them?
Well, it definitely challenges your problem solving skills. And I
Yeah.
think that's one of the things that I enjoy the most about this idea of corrective exercise and programming, and what always helped me, well, it made me gravitate towards exercise and programming and all of the like details in it, is it really does feel like you're putting together the pieces of a puzzle, and every puzzle looks a little bit different.
Yeah.
So you got to have all these tools in your toolbox. And that's where like, I don't want to knock against going out and getting education and getting certifications, because
You're still going to learn
you're going to
stuff.
learn a ton, but no one certification you get is going to make you fully qualified to work with any and everybody. And I had gotten my CES, my CPT, my performance enhancement specialist all through NASM. I got my USA weightlifting for Olympic lifting when I was doing CrossFit stuff. I had the Pilates mat and reformer, the FRC joint mobility. And what's interesting is the more you learn, the more you recognize you don't actually know a whole lot, because there's just so much out there to be.
So many different like, what do you want, like modalities of
Yeah.
how to support somebody, like
modalities.
mat and reformer, mobility and like FRC, weightlifting versus CSCS, like strength and conditioning.
Yeah.
Like, there's just so many things out there and so many different ways to like support people.
It's easy to get lost in it, but it's also
Yeah.
necessary to get lost in it in some ways, you know?
Well, the more you learn, you're not going to apply everything you know to every single person you come across.
Yep.
But the more you learn, the bigger your repertoire of knowledge is. So then
Yep.
you can pull little pieces from this and this and this to support this person here.
Yeah.
Right.
And what I've found, the more education I've done and the more I've learned and the more different methods I try to tap into, the more I realize there's a lot of crossover from one method to the next in regards to different principles about the way the human body works or should be trained.
Yeah.
And I think that's when you can start making those connections between different backgrounds or methods of applying things. And you really look at it from an idea of principles and concepts, not so much methodologies.
Yeah.
It gives you an opportunity to really start to look at putting strategies in place for specific scenarios. Not to put people in boxes, but the reality is most people sit all day long. They have certain injuries and ailments or issues that come from that. A lot of people that we see have a lot of the same things that they're dealing with. They don't know how to breathe and brace properly.
Yeah.
They are stiff. Maybe they have aches and pains from old sports injuries or just life injuries, right?
Yeah.
So it's interesting because I think that that's where the application of the thing from thousands and thousands of sessions and working with all types of different people have come to light, is that there are a lot of similarities, but until you've had the opportunity to experience so much of each one of these different styles of challenge or client needs that you run into, it makes it hard out of the gate for someone to be like, well, the book got me ready.
Yeah.
I'm certified. I'm like, okay, that's step one. Now let's work on applying this, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
The reality is that, like I said, there's patterns with all of this stuff. And when you can start to recognize the patterns, you can get into a system to where you can address some of the natural differences from client to client. Some of those differences are people's emotions. That's probably one of the biggest differences, how they feel about scenarios and their thoughts about and opinions about things. Because everybody I talk to that comes in the door has an expectation of what they think it should look like.
The client?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that expectation is based off of and we just talked about this in our last episode, but in a massive amount of information and different opinions or methods that are supposed to be superior to the next one,
Or even just previous experience. Now,
Yeah, their
this could go
history. Yeah.
a positive or a negative way. Like maybe they've had a bad experience with a different trainer. And so then they come in and they're like, well, I did that with somebody else and I didn't see results, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, just because you had a certain experience with somebody doesn't mean that your next experience is going to be like that too.
Every time I hear that, I refer back to the idea of dating. Like, just
Yeah.
because you had
Have
a bad
one.
relationship doesn't mean that
They're all going to be
they're all going to be
bad.
bad moving
Well,
forward.
that's what it is, a relationship with a trainer or a coach. I mean, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's
for sure.
Yeah.
And everybody's, everybody's lifestyle and patterns of stress and movement challenges all look uniquely different as well. And like I
Yeah.
said, there's a lot of crossover, but at the end of the day, the textbooks are not going to teach you how to adjust that
Yeah.
on the fly.
For sure. And I think this goes into the next, like, some people, need to be pushed harder and some people need you to take it easier on them
Yeah.
based off of, like you mentioned earlier, they got 3 hours of sleep one night. So you're like, okay, I can't like sit here and be like the boot campy coach to you today. I need to reel it back and meet you where you're at for the day.
Yeah.
And that just comes with practicing being a chameleon to the person that's in front of you
Yeah,
and
and
what they need.
and people's understanding of what difficult and pushing themselves looks like varies dramatically too.
That's true too, which we've learned working with people is that some people think that they're pushing themselves and we're like, okay, you can actually do so much more than this. You're not actually pushing yourself that hard.
Yeah, it's a big reason why we use heart rate monitors with clients. So we
Yeah.
can actually see the intensity that they're working at, because some people make the craziest faces with the least amount of effort. And I'm like, if I judged your effort based on the looks you make on your face, it would be really hard for me to understand whether or not this is actually difficult. I had a client that I'll leave unnamed for the sake of protecting them, but this gentleman, I was working with him. We were back at our old space. It had been about a year ago, and me and another coach were splitting time training this person. And I remember asking the other coach, being like, "Does this guy like always make crazy faces when he's with you? Because it doesn't matter what we do. There's just like this
It's like
really
it hurts kind
like
of
it
face.
hurts."
Yeah.
I remember asking him after a set, after like the second or third time I worked with him, I was like, "How hard was that on a scale of 1 to 10?" And he's like, "A 3." And I was like, "Can I be honest with you about something? It looks like a 9. You look like you're about to die right now."
Yeah.
He's like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "You gotta relax your face, man."
Yeah.
And if I didn't have the experience to understand that,
You're like,
like,
he
he's
looks
not
like
actually
he's
working
really
that
but
hard.
he's not working that hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then we'd go through and we'd ramp it up, and he's like, "Oh, that was a lot more difficult." And I'm like, "But your face looked exactly the same as it did before, so I wouldn't have known any different if I wouldn't have
Yeah.
asked, you know?"
Yeah. That's
Um,
funny.
yeah, lots and lots of stories like that. Going back to patterns and looking at people's patterns and recognizing the behavior shifts and the things that go along with that. Past behavior predicts future behavior. So like if you're in a position where, like you said, one thing has or hasn't worked for you for a long period of time before,
Yeah.
trying to go back down the path of doing that the same way is not going to work. The book doesn't teach you how to navigate people's natural emotions around what they logically think makes the most sense.
Yeah.
And being able to navigate that is not something that is taught in a lot of courses and a lot of certifications.
That just comes with working with people and talking
Correct.
to people and learning people's innate
Tendencies.
tendencies and excuses and reactions and
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's why we do like the Myers-Briggs Tendency Index for our team. It's just
yeah.
opening up the idea that people inherently think and see the world through a different lens than you do.
You know, what would be great is if we could just all walk around with our like
Your Myers-Briggs score on your
Myers-Briggs
chest.
scores. So people are just like, okay, you communicate that way and you take stuff in this
Hey.
way. Okay, great. Let's talk now. Like
Yeah.
just so because you don't have that. So now you have to just like learn as you go as you're communicating with somebody. Like,
Yeah.
how they communicate and
Yeah,
how they work.
and being able to like learn that is not something that's taught in a certification. It is learned through working with people
Yeah.
and learning how to understand that some people are organically more introverted, some people are more extroverted, some people are more judgmental, some people are more observant, some people are more intuitive, some people think more. I'm gonna see if I can nail them
I'm
all.
like, are you trying to say all of them right
Uh,
now?
damn, that threw me off. I
I
was close
know.
though.
Should have just finished.
I know. Yeah,
It's most of them
ENTJ,
at
ESTJ,
least.
you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, we're getting there. So if Myers-Briggs, check it out if you
Just
don't know, if
Google
you're not
it
familiar
and
with it.
find it.
Yeah. The personality assessment that they have takes like 15 to 20 minutes. It's free. You can get a lot of good insights from that.
Yeah, we did it as a team and it was pretty cool. I don't know if we've talked about this or not, but
Maybe
it
a
was
little
just
bit.
kind of interesting. Like we all put all our results up on the screen and talked about like, okay, you're this, this, and this way. Oh, that's so interesting. Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know you were like that. It's just kind
Yeah.
of, especially with the people that you're working intimately with on a regular basis, it's
Hmm.
nice to at least have a general idea of like who they are and how they operate and how they communicate and
And their own
yeah.
self-assessment of what that means, because we did have a couple of crossovers where we had two team members score similarly, but how they apply or how they utilize or lean into those tendencies look different,
Yeah.
maybe from one person to the next based off of more of their personality, not so much their tendencies.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
True.
very, very interesting. But that's not the
Yeah.
kind of stuff that you like, you don't necessarily like learn that in a CPT book or in a
Yeah.
course. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
For sure.
At least not the ability to look at it and apply it over a longer period of time.
Yeah.
Another thing that is really interesting to assess is just people's needs for intensity. And we talked about this a little bit earlier, but everybody's lifestyle and nervous system is programmed to need and handle things differently. Someone who comes from a background where maybe they're always more emotionally or internally charged,
Yeah.
that person might need things that help downregulate their system more.
We've learned this with like high performing professionals
Yes.
so if you're a high performing professional, you're a CEO, you own a business, you're at the top of your sales team,
Hmm.
and are crushing it and you're the best in your
A lot of those things
space.
are go, go, go.
A lot of those things are very driven and go, 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 and kind of you have to be emotionally high intense for the job.
Yeah,
And so,
resilient.
yeah. And
Yep.
so then when you come into a workout, you don't also need to go do this crazy high intensity workout necessarily because your nervous system is already fired up. You need something that's going to help regulate you a little
Hmm.
better or counterbalance you
Yep.
a little bit more.
Yeah.
Not to say that you can't be strength training, you know what I mean? But like the intensity of how you go about your exercise needs to be different depending on what your day was like.
Yeah, well, I think about this when you get people who are like, that didn't feel like that was a hard enough workout.
Yeah.
And it's probably because they didn't need to come in and create more intensity with this stress loop that they're going through.
Yeah.
It's like I'm running high, I'm operating on high. I prefer to be moving at this like anxious and furious pace.
Yeah.
And then when I get into the gym, I'm going to mimic that, and it's only going to compound and make things worse in a lot of those scenarios, instead of trying to be like, okay, well, we're going to lift heavy and we're going to challenge you, but it's going to be slower and more focused and intense. And you're going to take breaks in
And you
between
got to
what you're
rest
doing.
for 2 minutes in between your sets, and you'll see those people like
They're
they
just
can't,
fidgeting
they
like
can't like
crazy.
sit down and rest for those few
Yeah.
minutes between their sets because they feel like they need to be like, okay, I did that. Should I go over here and do some like,
Yeah.
air squats or push-ups or something while I'm resting? It's like, no, I want you to sit down
Yeah.
and chill
Yeah.
for
Take
2 minutes.
take a deep breath. Like,
Yeah.
just chill out
But
for a
like
minute.
those people who are a little bit more high intensity internally on the daily, that's really hard for them to translate that into, a training session.
Yeah, and that's helping people create more internal awareness to the way that they naturally operate and the things that they feel like they're drawn to have to do
Yeah.
to be successful. And another thing that doesn't really feel like, and I haven't looked at a textbook recently, so maybe some of these things have been
Been a
added back in,
minute.
but I will tell you, a lot of this stuff is common knowledge to newer coaches because so much of it is focused on the structural needs to be able to execute what a coach would do.
Yeah, it's the science of, the programming or the physical levers of how your body's going to move for different
Anatomy,
exercises.
physiology.
Yeah,
Yeah.
anatomy and physiology and the actual like education behind it. It's not how to like communicate with people appropriately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and being able to help recognize that maybe on the other end of that, there's someone who's kind of like low energy, they're sluggish. Like helping them kick it into gear and be able to learn how to channel into some higher intensity.
Yeah.
And everywhere in between, because obviously you get people that are at every end of that spectrum of
Yeah, for sure.
their natural tendencies to like really want to come in and overdo it or underdo it, you know?
Yeah, and I think that's where a coach comes in handy
1000%.
for that specific clientele.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because some people need more safety and regulation and consistency because of all the different things that we talked about, right? Things that play a role in this are stress, sleep, phases of life, injury, hormone changes.
Yeah.
It's especially difficult for women because of all the natural shifts their bodies.
Maybe they're in perimenopause.
Yeah.
Yep. Maybe they're pregnant or
Postpartum.
postpartum,
Yep.
Just all these different hormonal fluctuations that happen throughout a woman's life
Yeah, and men too,
specifically.
even going through higher levels of stress and cortisol management and testosterone and some
So
of the
those
things
are the
that
only two that you have to worry about? Oh, okay.
yeah, I'm not saying it's easier or I'm not saying it's not harder for women.
Uh-huh.
I literally said that in a consultation this morning. I was like, yep, your husband's going to have an easier time because he didn't have as much going on
They don't
internally
have
as you
nearly
do.
as much hormones fluctuating all over the place every week.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Kudos to all the ladies out there because
Mm.
I certainly wouldn't want to have to deal with that. So
Yeah.
I'll give you grace on that one. But yeah, I think that it goes back to, like you said, coaching comes back to understanding how to, one, recognize some of these different patterns in people, and then two, be able to plan for those things, but even three, adapt to it as things change. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yep.
So
Yeah.
it is also, I'm going to go ahead and use the word annoying, that there's so much focus on things having to be extreme. We've talked about this before too. I've always had a bone with the 75 hard thing. It's just like, I think so many people come in to the industry thinking that more is better and harder is better. And it's not to say that that's not a good tool to really help someone channel in an intense level of focus. But I think so many people go out and they do it, and it's so unsustainable to work out twice a day, to drink a gallon of water, to read 10 pages, all the things that go along with that. And I saw a post the other day from a guy that was like, how about moderate forever?
Yeah.
How about we do one workout a day? And if you can't get to the gym, that's a 20-minute walk or 20 minutes stretching.
Yeah.
That's drinking as much water as you need to adequately hydrate yourself. And that's trying to plug into a podcast, an audiobook, or some form of reading for 10 pages when you can make it happen, ideally more often than not. And if you do all those things over a long period of time, you will be putting in moderate efforts to stay in good shape and progressively improve yourself over the long span of life.
Well, we're all about longevity and
Yep.
not just quick fixes.
Yep.
So, what's going to be sustainable for you for the rest of your life, for your journey,
Yeah.
rather than a quick 75-day bout of intensity?
Yeah, and I think there's definitely a time and a place for challenges and for intense moments of focus and really helping people just kind of like get a kick in the ass to turn things back around. But the sustainability of that is pretty unrealistic.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
it gets a lot of attention, in my opinion, because it's sexy and it's hard nosed and it's hardcore. And I think there's definitely a time and a place for those things. And there's certain people that works great for. Most people can't sustain that. Most people don't need that. Most people think that they need that, and then they end up coming up short because they can't do the extreme thing, you know?
For that long.
We'll say this 1,000 times, but you have to be brilliant at the basics. You have to do the little things. I mean, you can stack wins over a long period of time and make something a part of your routine. It is going to be so much easier to see long-term sustainable success.
Do we need to trademark that? Brilliant
Yeah,
at the
I did not
basics?
come up with it. I
Is
got
that
it from
something?
I got it from a manager of mine, Andre Day, told it to me years and years ago. So I was
Thanks,
like,
Andre.
thanks, Andre. Appreciate it, dog. One of many things I took from him, but
But we say it literally all the time with our team and clients is like, you got to be brilliant at the basics. So find a way to do these basic things day in and day out, and you'll be going in the right direction.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm listening to a book right now called The Need to Lead. And one of the things he talked about, he's one of the lead instructors at, what's the movie? Top Gun. And Jocko did the foreword for the book. So, of course, I was like, I got to get this book. I got to listen to it because I love his stuff.
And we like Top Gun. That's a
Yeah,
cool
and Top
movie.
Gun's a cool movie. Yeah. But one of the things he talks about is naval aviators don't expect perfection. And for something that has such a small margin of error, flying a jet at 1,000 miles an hour and you have so much little opportunity for things to go wrong. He's like, we plan for things to not go right and we plan for it to finish okay. But
Yeah.
as long as we get it done and we do it with the right intentions and we aim for excellence, but we understand that we will never be perfect. I think so
Yeah.
many people also put that pressure of perfection on themselves, whether that's coaches, like, oh man, I didn't help that client get that thing right. I'm like, did you get them moving? Did you get them moving forward? Great. And maybe it wasn't by the book. That's okay. They didn't need to buy the book.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's on the client side
Yeah.
where they're like, well, I ate this thing, or I didn't get a workout in, or I only hit 4,000 steps today. I'm like, okay, fix it tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to be perfect. Nobody's going to be perfect.
Yeah. Not every day is going to be exactly how you know, wanted it to be or planned it out to be.
Yeah, and that's where, like, that's another thing too, is the books are always done by the ideal.
Yeah.
Certs are always done by the ideal, and that's a good thing because it gives us a chance to train towards being excellent and mastering our craft. But being able to apply that looks completely different, and there's no way to do it perfectly.
Yeah.
It's just not possible.
Yeah. No.
You heard the turtle and the hare race, the turtle
No,
and the
I've
rabbit?
never heard it. Can you tell me about it?
Yeah, so here's kind of how this goes. There's a rabbit and there's a turtle, and they get in a race. Yeah, of course you've heard it. But yeah, I mean the turtle wins the race. The slow and steady plan that is sustainable over a long period of time. If you draw this out on a graph, you know I love a good whiteboard.
Yeah. Too
No, I
bad we
love a good
can't
one.
like have a little rolling
Nate,
whiteboard
let's
for
get that hooked up. We need to figure that out. I need a screen or something right here where I can just actually just pop up and I'll slide it and I'm like,
Yeah.
here's what this looks
I'm
like.
sure we can find one
Yeah,
somewhere
it just
online.
needs to look nice, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Aesthetically pleasing.
1000%. You know how
Fit the vibe over there.
yeah, it needs to, maybe we just like paint it on or something. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, probably not.
But if you're watching, slow and steady all the way up makes a big difference versus something extreme, and the extremes are
Yeah.
not going to be sustainable ways to do it. But
Yeah.
if you chart it out over a long period of time, you guys get the picture.
Yes.
It's easier to
Anyone
go
who
slow
can
and
picture a
sustainable.
graph.
Yeah. Another thing that is important to point out is that, and I think books and coaching models are definitely getting better about this, especially like the precision nutrition model on the nutrition side, is like talking about identity goals versus outcome goals, which is us circling back on a topic we've discussed before.
Yeah.
But the person who loves walking is going to walk a lot further than the person who wants to achieve the destination. I've heard that quote before, so no credit to me on that. But it's the idea that if you are the type of person that loves the process and you become the type of person who takes good care of themselves, the type of person who works out every day, the type of person who looks healthy, it makes losing 20 pounds and being strong and confident just a part of the process,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, it's just you're part of your life. You make it a part of your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, instead of saying I'm trying to bench 185 pounds, it's like, no, I'm just going to work out and bench press twice a week and I'm going to get strong. And eventually that's just a part of what I do.
Yeah. And I'll hit that goal because I've been doing these basic things to
Yeah.
build myself up for it.
Yeah, I'm the kind of person who's consistently working towards those things. And
Yeah.
that mindset shift, I think, is so hard for people when they start, and is something that as a new coach, when you step into the arena of helping people, you're like so eager and you want to help everybody achieve their things. And
Totally.
sometimes it's hard to slow down enough to say, why do you want to do this? Why is this important to you? Not just because you want to fit into a dress, not just because you want to look good with your shirt off, but like, why do you want to become the type of person that is deserving of that outcome?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times it's easy to get eager and like get into like, all right, cool. Well, we're going to do this to help you lose 30 pounds. We're going to do this and we're going to track your macros and we're going to squat once a week or whatever it might be, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
But I do believe, and I've seen in a lot of experience, that the process become much, much easier when you can focus your energy on the type of person you want to become and embrace the process versus getting super fixated on whatever result you're seeing in the moment or over a longer period of time.
Yeah.
And obviously you want to like be on a trend of progress, but you get the point.
Well, as we were talking about earlier, people have to learn how to regulate their energy and their intensities, right?
Yep.
And so I think some of the things that you don't learn in a book or at school of like how to help people understand like where they're at
Mhm.
is like having them journal or having them slow down and do more recovery things to regulate their nervous system, or even just like recognizing that they're in a certain state of maybe high stress or anxiety or things like that.
Yeah, strategies for awareness.
Yeah.
I think that's something that I don't recall really ever getting directly taught, but just having to pick up over the years through other sources of self-development, you know?
Like if somebody comes in for their session and you can just tell that they're running on anxiety or stress or high emotions of some sort,
Yeah,
you're like, okay, how do I get this person to calm down?
yeah.
Or how do I get them to regulate
Well, it goes back to
here?
being a chameleon and being able to help them recognize what's going on because most people, at least in my experience, will try to like shove that down and work through it in a way that maybe is not as healthy and just try to compartmentalize and get through the session. And in some scenarios, maybe that's what needs to happen.
If you think about it, everybody who comes in, for example, in our business at our facility here, most people are coming in before their workday. So maybe their mind is, oh my gosh, what does the rest of the day have for me? I have to get my mind right. I'm stressing about this. I got to get home on time so I can get the kids, whatever, right? Like they know what's coming up is a
Hmm.
lot of stress of getting their day going.
Yeah.
Maybe they're here on a lunch break and they had a stressful morning and they still have to go back to work after. Or maybe they're here at the very end of their day and they had a crazy work day and then they just want to go home and like relax because they're exhausted and they're stressed. So
Yeah.
no matter what time someone's coming in during the day, most people work up to some capacity unless you're retired or something. But to like kind of recognize, like, depending on what time of day you're training somebody, maybe how that specifically is going to impact their
Hmm.
energies and emotions and how you need to cater your coaching.
Yeah, and even as a coach, being able to create and manage your own energy to navigate that with people and for people.
Which we talk about with our coaches, like if you're there in the morning, like, you have to have a certain energy for these people because it's 5 a.m. They're tired.
Yeah,
It was hard for everybody to get up and get
yeah.
here on time. So how are you going to be the coach that helps get people woken up
Yeah, you
and
got to lead them into taking
lively?
advantage of that hour to invest in themselves.
Yeah, because they know the rest of the day they might not have any more hours to themselves,
Yeah.
right?
And the same thing goes for the person at the end of the day. It might be your 10th session that you're servicing, but you got to show up with the same level of energy, or at least the right energy for that person, those people in that moment where
Yeah.
it's like, hey, whatever you got to do to be right now, like you got to show up and be ready to really serve these people
Yeah.
and be able to not only serve them by bringing yourself to the table, but also have enough capacity to recognize how you need to mold and adapt to help support them through whatever emotions they're bringing to the session
Yeah,
or
definitely.
focus or lack of focus. And I think that, whether that's, any of the common self-care practices of like, journaling or affirmations or meditation or just getting your own workouts in as a coach, and self-care there, I think is important because as you get busy, when you start to really pick up in your business and you're training 30 plus sessions a week, like that becomes physically and emotionally exhausting as a coach.
Yeah, for sure.
And being able to regulate your own self-care as you manage anywhere from 10 to 50 other people, it can be very challenging.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, that goes for as much as we tell clients, you got to take care of yourself so you can take care of the other things in your
Hmm.
life. Like, as a coach, you need to be taking care of yourself, your physical health, your mental health, so you can pour your energy into the clients that you're seeing every hour
Yeah.
throughout the day.
And if you feel a certain type of way about whether you're on the client side or the coach side, certain type of way about like, I was tired today, I don't feel good, or I don't
Yeah.
want to do this. It's like learning how to recognize those emotions, how to sit with those emotions, and how to accept them and still get what needs to be done accomplished
Yeah.
is a whole skill set in itself. And that is not something you can prepare for in any other way, shape, or form than going through the practice of having to apply that emotional
And
discipline.
just being self-aware.
Yeah.
And that comes with time
Yeah.
as well, of like learning about yourself, your energy needs, your ability to, put a face on for the hour that you're with clients or something like
Yeah, or
that.
if you're on the
Yeah.
client side, to be able to trust and be in a place where you can trust that you can be the most vulnerable version of yourself, because vulnerability creates an opportunity for growth. But you have to be around the right people.
Yeah.
So as a
And feel
coach, you have to be able to provide
comfortable
that.
and
And
yeah.
as a client, you have to be able to find that.
Yeah.
And the person with the six pack on Instagram that has their CPT they just got last year, and no experience is not going to be able to provide that for you. You know what I mean?
For sure. Well, and I think that's in general, it's hard because that's a whole that could be a whole thing of just like working with online coaching. It's
Yeah.
like you're never just getting that quite
Yeah, but even then, like
attention
when you
anyway.
go shop around or you go look for
Yeah.
things, like understanding some of these pieces from an experience standpoint,
Yeah.
experience weighs as much or more, in my opinion, than what it does for how educated somebody is. And education is 100% important. You
Totally.
want someone who has the tools in their tool belt to be able to actually address the needs that you have.
Yeah.
But a big part of being able to actually apply those things comes with that combination of education and experience.
Well, you've said this before with some old coworkers when you were at Lifetime Big Box Gym about how, you would look, there was a coach there and you wouldn't think that they were that successful for whatever reason, maybe just based off of first impressions. But that person had kept like all of their clients for like 10 some years or something because they're just really good at creating relationships with people. And maybe, yeah, they had some baseline certs, but they weren't like crazy educated with all kinds of fancy things, but they
Yeah.
were just like really good at working with
People
people.
skills.
Their people skills were excellent. So
Yeah.
just learning and having people skills in this industry is super important to just creating lasting relationships.
Yeah, it's a non-negotiable if you want sustained success.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you just can't
I
get
mean,
there.
it's a service-based industry. It's a people industry.
Yeah.
So whether you're the coach or the client, like you got to be comfortable with talking to people
For sure.
and creating relationships. And I think finding a space where you feel comfortable to learn and mess up, again, whether you're the coach or the client, like
Yep.
it's okay if every day you come in, you're not perfect, or you do something a little wrong, or you didn't tell your coach you were dealing with this and then it created that, you know what I mean? Like it's just, you be in a space where you feel comfortable enough to be open and communicate where you're at.
Yeah, and I think that's the foundation of being successful on either end, is that
Yeah.
you have the ability to learn how to become more structured and build better plans, but also find that balance of being able to adapt and apply things in certain scenarios, whether it be different client scenarios, different coaching scenarios, different day-to-day challenges that come up and arise through the process.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, cool. I think that we wrap most of it up on this topic, and just really want to reiterate that while education is important, experience is key. And there's so many different things that we've been able to learn over the last 10 to 15 years each.
Yeah.
I know collectively we've done well over 10,000 sessions. I know alone I'm sitting somewhere around like 10 to 15,000 sessions. I
How
did
do
the
you even
math.
come up? Like, how do you even come
I did
up
the
with
math
that
a while
number?
back. Yeah. I did the math. I don't really train a whole lot anymore, but I know that I put in
Yeah.
my 10,000 hours because that was something I was
Yeah.
really intrigued and curious about whenever I looked at, where I was at when we stepped out on our own.
Yeah.
I know when we first left in June of 2020, when we branched out, I think I was at somewhere around like 9,600 hours then or something like that. I
Yeah.
remember it was right around that 10,000 hour mark.
Just for like how many hours you're generally working, how many
No,
years you've
yeah, so
worked.
it's like
you were doing,
so an
you did,
example is like, okay,
reverse engineered your
I
math.
serviced about 25 to 35 sessions for X amount of years.
Yeah.
And then I went into more of a management role and I serviced 15 to 20 hours for a certain amount of years.
Gotcha.
And then I just kind of did the math on that.
Yeah.
And
Wouldn't even know where I'm at.
yeah, I'm a numbers guy. So
Yeah.
of course I'm going to figure those things
I don't
out.
really
But
do that.
you've probably heard about the concept of mastery. You got to pay your dues. You got to put your
Yeah.
10,000 hours in.
Yeah, I
And,
know that. I do.
and we've certainly worked with tons and tons of people between our time at other jobs and here at Avexia. It's been thousands and thousands of client and team member interactions. And I think the things that really stick are just understanding that you've got to have tools in your tool belt and you've got to forever keep growing, and you got to be a leader, and you got to find ways
Yeah.
to keep evolving. So
Yeah. Evolving. There
yeah.
you go. Adapting and evolving.
Yeah, forever. Appreciate your guys' time today. We will catch you next week.
Bye. This episode of the Higher Form podcast is powered by Avexia Health and Performance, your home for smart training, simple nutrition, and real accountability. Built to help you look, feel, and perform your best. Whether you're just getting started or chasing your next level, visit AvexiaKC.com to learn more and start building your higher form today.